This is a Modern Man podcast. I'm your host, JD, and we're brought to you by a Modern Podcast Network. Today I'm joined by one of my good friends, Scott Derosa. Scott and I met this winter when I signed up to do a little volleyball to try and be social. Unfortunately, our volleyball team wasn't even fully equipped with enough players to compete in the championship. He was much better, great team leader, and I improved much over the season. But today, Scott joins me, talks a little about the village that raised him, about how he was a young man, accepted the responsibility of being a girl dad to 3 young girls, and what his life is set to be now that the pandemic has hit and he's had to pivot into a new career. I hope you enjoy his story. What's up, man? Good.
You hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So, where have you been staying about now? Around during the pandemic and everything? Do you stay by yourself?
No, I stay with a couple of other people that I met along the way and whenever I reffed basketball.
Okay.
So
So I want to start back, from birth. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing and your childhood.
okay. Yeah, man, it's whew. How much time do we have, JD?
we got as much time as you want. All right.
Oh, I'll take all day.
All
Hey,
right.
so born in Chicago and I lived there not long. My family moved to the Panhandle of Texas, a little one stoplight town. Not a lot of people there. I think there's a Netflix. I don't know if I can say that on here, but there's a streaming service that is put up a documentary about a police chief that had a few mistresses that's going viral right now. I actually played against them in sports, and so they were in my district that we played basketball and football and track against. So that was kind of funny to see all those memes come out. But Texas, 1,800 people. So we went from reality shock, I think, culture shock for my parents, my family. Uh, Early elementary school was raised there. Limited. When I say limited demographics, JD, limited demographics. Okay, we categorize people of other races by the 1.5 that we had, or the two, and so growing up there was it helped me be who I am today, but it also made me grow as I kind of transitioned into adulthood. So graduated there north of Amarillo. It was a little town called Fritch, Texas.
Okay.
Moved to Houston whenever I got out of school and lived with my brother. My brother lives outside of Houston now, works in oil and gas. And, I met a, I met a girl that she lived in Oklahoma City. And so it was easier. She had 3 daughters. It was easier for her to stay in Oklahoma City naturally and transition into the Oklahoma City area.
Okay.
And
Okay. You're going a little fast. Let's go back to what part of Houston did you stay in? I my high school career and a little bit of college was in Houston. So what part?
Oh, okay. My fault. I can go back as far as I want. I'll start back. But I lived in Baytown, southeast side of Houston
Yeah.
for how long? A little bit over a year.
Okay.
And kind of as I got out of school or got out of high school, I started into I'll call it the workforce. It was the service industry, restaurants.
Yeah.
Uh, Learn how to wait tables and sling drinks. I'm sure you know a little bit about that, but
Yeah.
that was in
And how
Baytown
old
area.
were you when you moved there?
18.
So immediately after graduating high school, you moved out with your brother who was out there already and moved with him.
Yeah, I did, man. I had an opportunity to go to college at a cheap cost, live with a family member, and help kind of reduce some of my exposure before I transitioned into adulthood and had all the responsibilities. Right.
Yeah. So what led you to choose to go there compared to any other school?
Man, I battled. So as we kind of backtrack, and that is my fault for going a little fast
Yeah,
there,
you
but
you're a little overeager there. You just wanted to like jump through your entire life. Like none
I
of this is
was, man.
important.
We got to get this in.
All right.
No, mess around. You know, I wanted to be a computer programmer, And my mom was just trying to move mountains for me to do it. And so growing up, we didn't have a lot of money. We very much saw that poverty level or below poverty level income for my family. And we were lucky to have food. Truthfully, some days we were lucky to have food. We were lucky that she worked 3 jobs. She kind of almost killed herself at times to provide for us. And I remember I was in Dallas. I just got out of school, and we were looking at places that I could go and learn how to program computers, and maybe one day make video games, JD, because that was like every teenage boy's dream where I was at. And so I'm there at this trade school, and they're talking finances, and my mom is about to sign this $65,000 commitment. And at that, like today, 65 grand for a college degree is not, I guess, a lot in comparison to some places. But I remember thinking, whew, the
Yeah.
house I lived in, JD, it was
That's
like
me. Yeah.
three, 4 times its worth, man. I live in the blue house on Sheridan in Fridge.
I know what you mean. I know. That's a lot of money. That's what I'm looking into master's programs right now, and that's what I'm looking to have to pay. And I'm just like, I didn't want to, but I just got to suck it up, you know?
Man, and so I had this gut feeling. I remember being it was a school out of Dallas, and I remember crying. I was so sad because I kind of had this realization that I had to make a decision. It was either I do this at the expense of potentially my mom's future, or make this decision and try to revamp my future just a little bit. And so uh, didn't end up doing that, and I was just battling, man. I really was. I was battling. I'm trying to figure out because you know, after I graduated, not having sports and athletics anymore, trying to figure out kind of what's next.
Yeah.
My brother, who I have an older brother, he was in Houston. He had said, "Hey, man, why don't you come and live with me? And you don't even have to worry about working. You can just go to school." And so there was a school called, Lee Community College in Baytown, Texas.
Okay.
And JD, it was dirt
Oh,
cheap, $40 a credit hour, 40 bones. I was
wow.
like, whoa. So, I enrolled in classes there, and that's kind of how I got to Baytown, man.
Okay. All right. And then talk to me about your experience in Baytown and obviously how you met your girlfriend, soon to be wife.
Well, it was different. It really was. I transitioned from kind of knowing everybody. You go from a town of 1,800 people where, the village raised you. Like you could rely on people. And so I remember going from being able to just walk down the street to a friend's house, and we had an open door policy growing up. Like the group of us, we just walked into each other's houses. Kind of seemed strange in large areas of the day. Nobody knocked, nobody called. The number of days I walked into people's places and they weren't even home. I
Yeah.
might have ate something out of the refrigerator because I know that they would have done the same for me. They would have walked into my house if I wasn't home. They would have helped themselves because they were family too. To kind of go from that small town feeling to this big city, even though Baytown wasn't a gigantic city, it was 20 minutes from one of the largest
I know.
cities in the U.S. Right?
And it's a large suburb, very populated suburb, you know. I know exactly that feeling because that's how Houston is. Yeah.
Golly, and so it was mind-boggling how different it was. Just the difference in culture, the difference in access. You live in a town where the grocery store closes at 8 p.m. and you're like, oh, 24-hour access to bean burritos if I wanted them. You know, I had a Little Caesars a block from me for the first time in my life, and JD, I was eating hot and ready's every day. I was crushing a pizza at a time, dude.
Right.
And so when
Yep.
I first moved there, it was kind of like it was a reality shock of what I had access to. Um, but I didn't know anybody,
Yeah.
and so I got into the workforce there. I say the workforce. Some people look at their job functions and what they have today, and they're like, "Man, I really wish I could do better." Everybody thinks that. But
Everybody.
I got my first job out of town, and I was waiting tables at a restaurant. It's an Italian restaurant, and man, I didn't even realize it until I got into more of a corporate career, what type of benefit that provided me. And so I started waiting tables there and just, started to experience life. Got to meet people that were of different upbringings. Got to meet people that had different, sexual orientations than I did, and it was just, growth. That's the best way I can describe Baytown was growth, growth, growth. Challenges outside of comfort zone. You go from knowing everybody, everybody knowing you, to just being a small fish in a big pond, really. And so, um, you asked about the transition from Baytown to the girlfriend wife dynamic. There was we did the long distance relationship thing in Baytown. She was a trooper, 7.5 hour drive from Oklahoma City to Baytown. I came up to Oklahoma City, every other weekend. She came down to Baytown every other weekend or so, and just we kind of did that thing for a while. And talk about challenges. I mean, if you really want to stress or stretch a relationship, be 8 hours away and try to figure that mess out. But there just kind of got to a point in time in Baytown where classes were going the way that they were, work was going the way that it was, the relationship was progressing, and like a decision had to be made. Either you part ways or you find a way to come together. And so, I was fortunate enough to be able to say, and I say that now, fortunate enough to for her to agree to say, yeah, we'll take this to the next level. And so I moved to Oklahoma City. Moved to Oklahoma City and moved in across the street from her. I was a block away.
And what year was this?
Maybe I was just trying to test the waters, man. But sorry, you asked me a question.
Oh no, I just said, what year was this?
it?
Give me what year was this? Well,
Yeah, that was in 2008, and so I spent 2007 in Baytown, and then to that back half of '07, then the front half of '08 in Baytown, and I moved to Oklahoma City in the back half of 2008, and so yeah, golly, it feels like a lifetime ago, but it's also just wow.
those were, yeah.
So I've been in Oklahoma City since 2008, and
Okay.
I started across the street from a lady and three daughters. So
And then how did that relationship progress? Do you
yeah,
want to dive into that?
we lived across the street from each other for about a year. We spent time even doing a short distance relationship, because that was strange, man. I've told people often that, man, if you have an opportunity to do the long distance thing, like it has its perks, because like you have on time and off time, right? And so everybody's talking about their space, their whatever. Is that I saw a lot of relationships fizzle out because they just want to spend so much time together initially. They irritated the crap out of each other, and then it exploded. But we had a privilege of spending about a year apart, 7 hours away, and then I spent about a year across the street from her before we got married. I got married in 2009, and she had at that time at the time that we got together, not the time we got married, but the time that we got together was her daughters were real young, 2.5, 5 and change, 9. And here I was 18 years old, and I had a 2.5-year-old, I had about to be 6-year-old, I had about to be 9-year-old. And so I was like, man, I really got to make some big kid decisions, right? I got to make some.
Have you always
decisions.
wanted kids?
No, I didn't even know what I was doing, man. Like that's the thing. People would ask me that question, like, man, did you just want kids? I was like, no, I just wanted to connect with somebody.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of sounds sad, but I think some people can relate to this statement. Is I wasn't the dude that all the girls went after, man. And so like, I grew up with some friends that, man, I tell you what, they could just, they had some of the best girlfriends that were available in our small population, right?
Yeah.
And so here I found this person that was like interested in me. And so I was like, well, hell, I gotta figure this out, man. there's somebody that not only has life figured out, but is interested in me. I got to make some tough decisions. And so at a kind of an early age, I had made a decision, hey, I'm going to do what I can to be a part, to invest, and let this thing go where it goes.
Hey Scott, this is what I tell everyone now, all those guys who want to brag, the guy who told you had the great girlfriend in high school, all the I'm like, congratulations at our age. Go brag about the girls, fucking 15-year-old girls. Congratulations. Like, where does that lead you?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yes, it was cool that maybe some guys when you're 15, 16-year-olds got some girls that were cute, but what does that really do for you long term?
Yeah, and I'll speak to the challenges too, because you think that, what I'm saying is, man, it was such a like euphoric feeling, kind of finally, like I get to put my skills on display. I get to be kind to people. I get to show love. I get to have like affection returned back to me in the same way that I desire.
Yeah.
But at the same token, you know, I took steps towards a relationship that probably didn't fit long term. Concessions were made because, you know what, hey, this person's giving me what I desire. You know what I'm saying? This person is doing things for me or making me feel this way for the first time ever, and so this must be it. And I didn't listen, or I really I don't want to say I didn't listen. I just didn't know. And
Yeah.
so you talk about the dangers and the coolness of, at 15 you have this and this, like it all figured out, is you really don't know what you need to know at
Yeah.
that time. And so naturally she was nine and a half, 10 years older. She had more life figured out, and so she was influential in some of my career growth and some of my personal growth, because I didn't have to focus on growing her. She was
Mhm.
already kind of in a state where she had more of a mature background, more of a mature lifestyle. And so it golly, so many ups and downs came from that. So such a roller coaster. But you're right. You're right. Cool, bro. That's real cool
Yeah.
that you succeeded there. And so
But I also understand because I went through the phase too of dating the single mom. And there was one point where I went to a kind of play date with a girl I was dating who was a single mom. And then my friend who had a kid and the girl he was dating and his kid and my other friend. And it was like my life, it was like flash before my eye. And I didn't know if I was ready for that commitment because I thought I was because that's what I wanted. And I could have been in the same position, like I said, because I thought that's what I wanted, and I just wasn't ready to fully commit yet. And but again, like I said, you came out of it with great opportunity because she did help you in so many other ways. And
yeah, JD, I want to be very, very respectful of the other individual too, and the individuals involved. And so, like in this conversation, I hope to be as genuine as I can be, and as forthcoming as I can.
yeah,
But to say that she and I got married because it was true love. It's love, like love was a part of it.
yeah,
Affection was a part of it. Intimacy was a part of it.
yeah,
But something that I had to battle with, especially early on, was whenever I entered the picture, there was uh, a custody agreement or a custody arrangement that was filed because of me coming into the picture.
oh
And
wow,
so
yeah,
I enter the picture. I enter the picture, and within a month, like 30 days or so, this 30 days of the other individual finding out, they file paperwork, and all of a sudden this court case that's changing the trajectory of her life is now on the table. And so I have to make a decision. Did I enter somebody's life just to mess around, or did I enter somebody's life to be involved, make an impact, have a relationship? And so there was a big driving factor of decisions that had to be made there of, okay, hey, I hate saying it, but I gotta shit or get off the pot here. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
it
saying?
it, it really
Because
was.
what do you do? Because my decision that day, JD, was not only affecting me, it was affecting my future wife and also her 3 kids.
Talk about your little experience then being young and then being a girl dad to 3 girls.
JD, like people would ask me all the time, "Hey, Scott, do you want to have any other kids?" I'm like, "Hell no." I I was like, "I don't even know how to raise these 3 girls, man." Because when you have kids, and so like, listen, I've never had triplets. Okay, never had triplets. There are complexities to triplets, but they're all the same age. And like you're having similar complexities. You just don't have enough arms. All
Yeah.
right. These 3 girls, they're stair steps. Okay. And so I've got one girl that she's small, two and change. Conversations are, simple conversations. Like
Yeah.
you really got to listen to like hear what she's saying. The about to be 6 year old, she's able to have more like complex conversations, but she's still standing on like a laptop if you leave it in the floor. That was something too. That was like, oh man, uh, I was used to just leaving my stuff wherever I wanted to. Now I had to worry about who's going to step on what, who's going to break stuff, who's going to spill things on things. And so yeah, early on, people asked me a question like, "Hey, do you want to have any other kids?" I'm like, "No, dude. I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out how I can shortcut this bell curve of learning how to be a parent because." At least whenever you have a newborn, yeah, you got to learn how not to sleep. Yeah, you got to learn how to feed it. Yeah, you got to learn how to change diapers. Yeah, you got to learn how to potty train. But dude, I'm trying to learn how to show up at parent teacher conferences while enroll somebody in kindergarten. While oh my goodness, like I got to pick this one up from daycare and like all of a sudden, like bam, all of a sudden my life changed. You know what I'm saying? I was like, why would I want to add another kid to the mix of that? That's like that's pouring gasoline on the flame, dude. And they're like, but Scott, don't you want to have like one of your own? I was like, and do what? And neglect the other 3 because I have this thing that's mine? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to admit it whenever they're like a stepdad. Nobody wants to say it out loud. Like, well, but I know they're thinking it, JD. God, I know they're thinking it. If I have a kid of my own, will I treat them differently than these other 3? And I've seen that applied in life. Like stepdad doesn't engage or involve themselves in, let's say, the three's life because they're more focused on the one that maybe they created. And I didn't. That was a big thing that I wasn't really comfortable answering for myself. Is was I going to be able to treat them with the same love and respect that they deserve if I had my own? And so I had to learn, man, I had to learn things like I can't walk around the house in my underwear because, I don't have the same anatomy that they do. I had to learn how to, you wipe from the front to the back, JD, not just however you want it to. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I had just so many things, fingernail polish to Disney movies and princesses and characters and the makeup scene and talking about Valentine's Day in a different way. Like all of a sudden, all these things I had to learn. Being a girl dad was you just I just grew up differently. As a male, I grew up
Yeah.
differently. Then all of a sudden, in this house of 4 women, uh, I could I could tell story after story about just experiences with those girls. One day, JD, one of them comes home from school, man. She said she's talking about how she's having a tough day because the equivalent of JD was talking all this trash, and he was mean to me. He made me come on this Zoom conference call, and he tells me what to do, and then I didn't listen, but I don't really want to say that out loud. But JD's being mean to me, and so the stepdad version of Scott says, "Well, did you hit him?" And she's like, "No, we don't hit. We don't hit." It was like I was like, "Oh, kind of boys at that age, they just kind of wrestle, throw punches every once in a while, spit on each other. I mean, I was like, I had to figure out, wait a minute. Wait a minute. The things that, maybe I did growing up weren't
Girls solve problems a little
appropriate.
differently. Yeah.
Yeah, they sure do. They absolutely do, man. But God, there was different personalities too, bro. It was just the oldest one. She was a sweep it under the rug until it's a monster. And like you can't deal with it. By the time you find out, like she had already hidden it so well that it was like, what am I gonna do about this? The middle one, she was the one, she didn't like change. And so she was the defy everybody in the room, but she was still going to comply because her mom did a phenomenal job at raising them. Honestly, like I can say that today with all the negativity that might have spiraled in our relationship.
Yeah.
Uh, like that girl, she was so disciplined and following through with what was what was told for her to do. So I might say, hey, why don't you go and empty the dishwasher? And while she's slamming dishes in the dishwasher, JD, she's telling me how much she doesn't like and to do the dishes, and she did the dishes yesterday. And,
Oh,
and
that's me. That's me.
yeah,
Okay.
okay, like I just want to let you know, okay, I
Yeah.
just want to let you know. And the youngest one, she lied. She was a liar, man.
Oh,
And so like, yeah, I did the dishes. I absolutely did. Like, hey, why are there dishes in the sink? Like, oh, well, I did the dishes yesterday. Like, you didn't ask me today if I had done the dishes. Like, and so uh,
uh,
getting to know their personalities and how to speak to them was its own challenge, you
okay.
know. And so being a being a girl dad was a lot of fun. Honestly, it was so rewarding. You thought like you worried about stuff that honestly I don't know that parents worry about the same thing with boys. You hold them to a different standard, and
Yeah.
um, I think it really helped me in the workforce with things like women empowerment, how I maybe treated my female coworkers, and you know, um, advocating for just people in general,
Yeah.
not just people that are like me. If that makes sense.
I feel like that even goes back to you described your upbringing. You were saying like, yes, you didn't come from a very diverse town, but the town that you lived in, everybody was struggling. Everybody was out there fighting, and everybody, needed a helping hand. So you kind of didn't judge people for who they are. It's just we're all in this together kind of mentality.
Yeah, man. So a little bit about that, and I didn't really do it much respect in the beginning of our conversation. Was yeah, it took a village to raise me. It absolutely did. Not There were a lot of people that struggled out in that town because it was big oil and gas. And so just like in Oklahoma, oil and gas
Yeah.
kind of has its ups and its downs.
Mhm.
But um, you know, it was a sports community, and I joke and say people played sports or did drugs, one of the two. Some people were good enough to do both. I
Yeah.
wasn't. I was like, they might show up to a football game or basketball game high and still
Yeah.
be able to put up 20. Like, hey man, hey, what are you doing? I
Yeah.
need whatever you got. But that just wasn't my lifestyle. But you know, I, I'll I'll commend my father for this. He made a decision early in my life that was not productive to our family structure. Absolutely, he made some decisions that to this day he regrets,
Okay.
and he made decisions to drink alcohol excessively,
Yeah.
and it had an effect on my family. It had an effect on my relationship with my brother, my sister, my mom, how I grew up inside the house, how I wanted to be out of the house. It affected so many things. That decision of his,
Yeah.
um, and there was a point in time where the state JD they said to my mom like, hey, either you get them out or we do. You pick. And so she did. And I stayed at friends' house. I stayed at church family's house. There was a 5-year period where I was sleeping in other people's homes or in my home or I was having dinner with somebody else just to be out of the house so that I could come back in the house just to sleep. And, you know,
Yeah.
people brought me in.
Mhm.
And although I had to learn how to play the game, because if I showed up at, at the Farrell household, I had to play by the Farrell's rules.
Mm.
If I was in the Derosa household that day, I had to play by the Derosa rules. And so, shoot, we didn't. My parents found out that I had a fast metabolism whenever they caught wind that I was eating 3 dinners a night. Man, I was showing up at my friend Logan's house to eat once. I was going to my friend Tyler's house to eat a second time, and then I'd show up to my house to have dinner. And there, my mom was like offended. She's like, "Why do you tell me you're not to get enough food?" I'm like, "Well, I'm always hungry, Mom. I'm always hungry." And she adjusted, but it took a village to raise me, and I respect that so much. And that's driven me in my adult life too. Is that people showed me kindness and empathy and sympathy and care that they didn't have to.
Yeah.
Maybe I deserved it, maybe I didn't, but they didn't have to, dude. And but they did anyways.
Okay. So I feel like you had a very unique upbringing. And what do you think? I don't want you to kind of compare and contrast the two men, but which do you think impacted more of who you are today? The period of the upbringing in the village or the girl dad period? Would I know they both had a combination, but kind of, I guess, describe which one affected you more and kind of just, I guess, come into a few words how you would describe each of those time periods in your life as well.
I think that my childhood affected me more,
Your child. Okay.
and it set the bar of expectations for myself. I wanted to be better.
Yeah.
I wanted to be better than what was around me. You know what I'm saying? And so I think to answer your question in as few words as I can is my childhood impacted me more in who I am today. Now, it didn't positively impact me, and that's something that you know it had its good, but it also had its bad. Some things that I tried to avoid because of it. Some things that maybe I buried or locked away that I didn't deal with until later in life. It affected my relationships. It affected my drive. It affected my career. My childhood affects my competitiveness, whether it's in volleyball or banking or basketball or hopscotch. Man, my childhood affected those things.
Yeah.
And so, um, Girl Dad helped me refine some things. Girl Dad helped me eliminate some distractions. It didn't force me to eliminate all distractions. It didn't
Yeah.
force me to make conscious decisions. My childhood absolutely did, and I think to answer your question, that drove me more.
Okay. And now let's fast forward to obviously you're not still in that relationship. We're kind of we're going not so present day, more present day a year ago, 2020. What happened more when the pandemic hit? Were you in the same situation, same job? Were you able to still work?
No, no, I wasn't, man. Kind of a strange deal, and I'm in a different job today than what I was a year ago today. I was I was I was transitioning, truthfully.
Yeah.
At a year ago today, I knew that I was leaving Oklahoma.
Oh.
Um, I was presented a job in November. Um, in November of
2019.
19. No, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, November of 19.
Yeah.
I was presented a job. And
So
so flash forward to a year ago, January 28th, 2020, I
yeah.
was trying to survive, honestly. I was showing up to work and doing whatever I could just to stay there. Um, I was, I didn't want to move out of my house at that time, but I knew that I was leaving. And so I woke up every day and I saw an individual that I was going to separate from, and two girls at that time, because the oldest one, she was already out the house, and two girls at that time that I was having to prep myself to say goodbye to. because my new job was out of state, and my new job was in a different industry, and my new job started in March. Um, and so on January 28th, 2020, I was prepping myself mentally for um, I'm going to be changing all the things that I've worked the last 11 years of my life for.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to shift who I'm doing things for. Am I doing it for me? Am I doing it for them? Am I doing it for the girls? Am I doing it for the spouse? Am I doing it for accolades? What am I doing it for?
Yeah.
And so January 28th, I was in a really, really dark place, man. A lot of alcohol, honestly, a lot of depression. I was just trying to survive. I might shower 3 or 4 times a day. I might sit in the sauna, as often as I could healthily sit in the sauna,
Yeah.
just to pass the time. And so when my work knew that I was leaving, and we already hired my replacement. We were going in January. We were going through the interview phases of that, and I was having to hire and train my replacement. So I not only saw the light at the end of the tunnel, but I was supposed to drive the car there too.
Yeah. I understand.
And so when the pandemic hit, I had just gotten the flu. It was so bad. My dad, the week before that it was classified a pandemic, was in the hospital on a ventilator, oxygen levels low, pneumonia, flu-like symptoms. And we're like, man, I thought I was gonna lose my dad.
Hmm.
And then he starts to recover. Like that dude, sidebar, that dude is not the epitome of health, but like he still keeps on kicking, man. He's a fighter. And so he gets released out of the hospital, and I get the flu and type A, and I'm like, I'm down with the flu. I'm like I'm literally a few weeks from transitioning to this. Truthfully, it was supposed to be a once in a lifetime opportunity, man. I was going to become the next CEO of a $1 billion company. That I was going to be the CEO in training, and so
Yeah.
I was leaving a job that not a lot of people have in the U.S. to begin with. Well, I mean, in Oklahoma, anyways. I was
Mhm.
a corporate trainer for a financial institution for a multi-billion-dollar company. I was really the only one at the company that did what I did,
Yeah.
and so when I left, I gave them a quarter worth of notice. I gave them 3 months worth of notice, and less than 30 days from me departing from the bank, bam, COVID hits, and I'm
Mhm.
like, I already hired my replacement, dude. I already hired my replacement.
Uh,
I'm in a house that I can't stay in. I'm in a relationship that I can't stay in. I don't have a job anymore.
so the relationship, was it fully over at this point, or I thought it was over at this point? Was it not fully ended at this point?
Well, one of the best things I could have done was buy a house that had an upstairs. And so I stayed upstairs, man. And so the relationship was um, over emotionally,
Mhm.
honestly, for the most part. Like I've said this to a few people, is that whenever you decide to get married, I think you get married for a reason. I think that you get engaged for a reason. You get into a relationship. You're involved sexually, intimately, in conversation for a reason.
Mhm.
And so I still, even to this day, I still have love for that individual. But how do I show the love? How do I show love differently today? Now, at that time, I still had a lot of anger, man. I
Yeah.
still had a lot of anger and frustration about this thing that, either I worked hard for or she worked hard for, and it didn't connect. And
Yeah.
so I lived in the same house as the individual that I had made a mental decision and a physical decision that I was no longer going to be with that individual.
Okay.
And so we were in the same space during that time, but we just weren't together. We were like ships in the night, man. We just crossed paths and hoped that we didn't crash into each other.
All right. All right. And then you find out about the job as well. And then, so,
Yeah.
so
So
then,
I go
no, I'm
ahead.
just saying, continue.
Oh yeah. So I called my boss and was like, "Hey, I don't know what's available. I don't know what options do I have. My new job has asked me, can I stay for a little while?" And so my boss said, "We can still use you."
Okay.
And so they transitioned me to a different department. And honestly, COVID kept me employed
Yeah.
because otherwise, they weren't going to front my salary without me taking a full-time position someplace else. But when as COVID started going, as the pandemic started to hit, that $2 trillion stimulus package hit too, right? $1,200 stimmy check,
Mhm.
small business lending,
Yeah.
and the bank transitioned me to the department that was dealing with small business loans and those SBA loans, the Paycheck Protection Program loans.
That
And
helps.
so
Right.
as the end of March happened and April happened, I got transitioned to another department. And shoot, God, we were working like dogs, dude. Shoot, man, I'm telling you, I was working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's how busy we were. Sleeping on a concrete floor in the bank, plugging in people's loan applications at 3 a.m. because in a 14-day period, we had gotten 20 years worth of loan applications in 14 days. And I was on the shit show, man. Just like it was my entire career there. They picked me up for like special forces type banking projects or whatever nonsense. But you
So
know,
with
we
this
just
change in role, was it a pay increase, pay decrease?
shoot. I was thankful to have a job, man. I saw the writing on the wall. I didn't care, uh, truthfully, and I wasn't in a permanent position. I was in a band-aid. They said, "Hey, we got all this volume coming in.
Yeah.
We need somebody that can duck their head and do work." And so they started asking who can do work, like who can duck their head and get stuff done. And my name came up a number of times over the years whenever that happened at that company, and it did that time too. And shoot, started out just plugging numbers. And before I knew it, I had a team of 6. And then before I knew it, I was in charge of a team of 12. And then before I knew it, I was teaching training and then running a night shift. Before I knew it, I had 75 people that were reporting and doing things like with me, and I was responsible for their accuracy. And like it steamrolled. And there came a point in time where they said, "Hey, Scott, either we put you in a permanent position because we have one for you,
Yeah.
or you need to make a decision." And so um, I negotiated me leaving the bank and moving away. So I left. My last day in Oklahoma City at that company was in the end of May, and they paid me through basically August, and I traveled.
Okay.
I saw a bunch of national parks.
Mm.
I was supposed to go and work for this other company, and COVID didn't help it. It honestly, it pulled the plug on the funding for that other job. So I left this career type job at the bank. I got to see a bunch of stuff, but my new job I transitioned to basically we'll use it as a verb. It got COVIDed.
Yeah.
And so here I was in August, and I had no job, no, like, really no place to stay. And
So
I had
what was
to,
the reason for going to all the national parks? Just to get away?
well, man, I worked so many hours, because I worked so many hours trying to provide for those, like the girls and my spouse.
Yeah.
Um, from probably, what was it, 15 to 20-ish, like in that 5-year span. I officiated basketball,
Mhm.
and I was fortunate enough to do it at a high level. And I was doing that and working at the bank. And so I was pulling 90-hour weeks. I really didn't take vacation often at all. Honestly, uh, and when I say I take vacation, I took time off to ref. That was it. And so I was traveling for that. And, I didn't take any time away in about a decade, from about really 08, 09 till 20. I hadn't taken any trips, man. I hadn't seen anything. And so I love trees. I love nature. I love the mountains. I love the ocean. And I was like, man, I want to see stuff. And so I did. I got in the car and I drove. In June, I drove like 15,000 miles in a 3-week span.
Wow.
And I kind of pretty quickly, I saw this news art, like it was kind of on a whim, dude. It's funny how it works, but I saw this saw this internet posting about all the national parks, how long it would take you to get from spot to spot.
Okay.
I was like, hell, that would be real cool. I said, I'm gonna see if I can put some legs to it.
Yeah.
And so I started mapping out, how can I get to them? I was gonna do something crazy, JD. Honestly, I was gonna try to do everything west of Oklahoma City
Hmm.
in a month,
Wow.
35.
Okay.
And so I planned out, okay, if I spent no more than 4 hours at this spot, I
Yeah.
could get to 35 in
Oh,
30 days.
that'd be exhausting.
Oh, hey, yes, it was. Like I did what was it, 13 in a 9-day span.
Oh,
And my plan got derailed because of those like autonomous zones and some of the riots that were happening and just the fear of getting trapped someplace. Truthfully, I wanted to go out to California and Oregon and Washington
yeah.
State
Oh yeah,
so bad,
yeah, Oregon, all that, yeah, yeah. There's a lot
but
of
all
yeah,
that crazy was going on, man.
yeah.
And I say crazy, not because
Not
I
in a
don't,
bad way, yeah, just
not
not
crazy because
abnormal, just abnormal.
I don't want to be there when it's happening. Not that I don't support what was going on or support the cause. I just, man, if I didn't have to be involved in, gunfire or fights or anything like that, I was trying not to, man. I'm a lover, not a fighter, but I don't think I was that good of a lover, JD. And so I was trying to avoid it. So I had like the pandemic and COVID has affected a lot of things. Like it's been good and bad. It's been strange. We're more conscious today of what we touch, how we touch things. Like we're more conscious of where we go. Are they sanitary? And these are all things we should have been doing before, man. I
Uh,
mean, it seems kind of silly to say that, but
no,
we should.
someone I had dinner with, I was just eating and she was next to me and she was like, why are we mad that maybe we should wash our hands a little bit more and look at where you know what I mean? It's common things that maybe we should just be more aware of these things. That's all it's teaching us. Like, why are you mad?
Well, oh, I'm sorry, and well, I'm not willing to say that there's no challenges in taking like education to an online format.
Hmm.
But like COVID has made everybody in all industries
Hmm.
rethink the way that they deliver their business model,
Yes, yes,
rethink office spaces, rethink
yeah.
leasing, rethink their training programs,
Mhm.
rethink every single form of delivery. And it took something drastic because it took something drastic to do it, you know?
Yeah.
And so COVID allowed me to do something drastic
Yeah.
and also do some things that was probably for the best for my mental health.
Yeah. I'm glad you did that and I feel like a lot of people addressed their mental health over COVID. And I'm guessing that trip definitely had an effect on you and the whole process of having to get over what you were getting over did. And
For sure.
what do you think were the best tools to help you survive the pandemic? What if now are you doing that maybe you didn't do before?
Um, you know, I don't necessarily know that COVID was the thing,
Okay.
but it was maybe it was just coincidence, honestly, JD, and maybe it's not fair for me to answer this question, but just given where I was at mentally before the pandemic hit and what the pandemic provided is the pandemic provided me an opportunity to hit reset.
Okay.
The pandemic allowed me the opportunity to connect with the things that I found to be important, to be more meaningful and intentional in relationships with people with no gain in mind. I met people just like you during that time,
Yeah.
you know, I may not have met before then. And I had the opportunity to invest and engage in things that were for my health and wellness, like yoga. I had done yoga a few years ago. So I picked up yoga kind of towards the back half of the year and how important that has been for just my sanity. Reading, writing, getting back to some of the fundamentals of the things that I know that I enjoy. And that's probably the biggest thing the pandemic has helped me with is to connect and connect to the things that I know are for me, whether it be the types of relationships or the types of activities that really light my fire. And that's what I think that's what it provided me.
Okay. And I guess we'll kind of end on this, but what are kind of the things you're looking forward to in 2021? What are you excited to get into?
Man, I'm going to Hawaii in April, sir.
I hate you right now.
I know. Hey, I'm going to Hawaii,
Oh,
and
jealous.
the what I don't want to be is insensitive of people's health and well-being. I really don't. Um, I've I've slotted for me to go and just live life, truthfully, to see things, and not be insensitive to other people's health and wellness. I don't want to. I don't want to be insensitive to my hygiene or their hygiene or any type of infectious diseases. But I'm going to take the precautions that I feel are necessary. But I'm looking forward to seeing things. I have 10 national parks on my agenda for 2021.
At least leave us with number one. Don't go through all 10, but what's number one?
Well, number one is going to be Volcano National Park in Hawaii,
Oh, well, what?
and and so I've been more intentional about how I look ahead to things. And so earlier this month, I took a car ride to Tennessee on a 3-day weekend. I left Friday after I got off work, went and saw Smoky Mountain National Park, saw it for a day, and drove back. 27 hours in the car over the weekend. Lots of laughs, smiles, and good sights. But before COVID, I wouldn't have thought to do that. I would have made excuses on why I couldn't do things that were within my control. And
100%.
so I'm looking forward most in 2021 of seeing things, but most importantly, trying to control the things that I actually can control, and don't worry about the rest. Because some things I just have to accept. Some things I can influence, some things I can control, some things I can accept, or CIA, control, influence, accept. And I'm working on putting the appropriate things in those buckets, man.
Okay. All right. Wow. It was great talking to you, Scott. I hope to have you on again, and I might steal it. Hopefully, if it's not trademark CIA. All right. Control, influence, accept. I like that.
Well, I hope it helps, man. I greatly appreciate the time. Let me flap my jaws for an hour, and I hope to talk to you soon, man.
You too.